And welcome to Thete Gaming, and we've got another battle report, very different format, and you'll probably guess by the length of the video. So I'd said last week that, well, first of all, the battle report wasn't out last week because of technical problems. One of the cameras just decided to stop recording at some point and shut itself off for whatever reason. So what we've done, just because it takes so long to edit anyway, and I just don't have that time, it's summary based this. So at the end of one or sometimes two phases together, if one would be quite short like the psychic phase, it's a case of summarising what's happened. It not only means that I can edit it much more quickly, the video is much shorter as well. And you know, I gathered as well that some people prefer that style anyway, but this is the one that's realistically, from a resource point of view, much more possible. So what we've got in this one is my Adepta Sororitas against, well, Iron Hands, I suppose, really. I'm not all that up with the different Space Marines things, but basically it's Space Marine meld to death. So this is Adepta Sororitas against the Forsaken. The mission is retrieval mission. We've got 6 objectives, 1 in each of our deployment zones. The deployment zones are across the board, unusually, so that means 4 a little outside. For the secondaries, I have chosen Assassination, Sacred Grounds, which is the Adepta Sororitas one, and as well as Grind Them Down, and the Forsaken have gone for Assassination as well. Retrieve Octarius data and Oaths of the Moment. We've just rolled off to see who goes first. I will be going first with the Adepta Sororitas, so we'll be back after the command phase and the first movement phase. So after the command phase and movement, so command phase, I gained a command point, rolled a miracle die, got a 6, and I have popped out with the Retributor squad, which reminds me I need to put down there Armorium Cherubs. I didn't pop out with the Warlord or Celestian squad, for better or worse. There was only one thing going to get anything in range anyway, but I have moved forward with all the vehicles, including the Rhinos. Battle Sisters there have just remained in place. Battle Sisters around there have remained in place, and they're going to try and cast Sacred Rites on the objective. They're there. I don't get that until the end of my next command phase, so they have to survive. Celestine's just hanging back a little bit. I did think about popping her in reserve. A bit of a call. I don't want to sort of waste her, even though she can sort of probably survive if she gets shot down. But a bit tentative for now. I'm just hoping that my many meld to death will do meld to death. Okay, so in the shooting phase, slightly below par, we have got a hole where there used to be a dreadnought, but it did not explode. We've taken some wounds off this dreadnought. How much is that on now? That's 6. That's on 6 wounds left. We took a few off this, not so many as that. I can't see how many that's got left as well. That's got 9 left. Nothing else was damaged. I used my miracle die, my 6, just to try and get an auto wound on that thing, and therefore also with my conviction it would be at minus something anyway, an extra -1, but so many invulnerable saves when I didn't want them, but never mind. The Battle Sisters down there took advantage of the Dogmata and shot anyway, even though they are carrying out an action, but they didn't actually do any damage to anything. It was not expected. It was just for the sake of it. So that will be the end of the shooting phase. It will also effectively be the end of my turn. There's no morale, there's no secondary points scored as yet. There may be at the end of the next turn. We'll just have to see where we go there. Right, so after the Forsaken movement, the drop pod has descended in and various things have come out. My Warlord probably should have hopped out of the Exorcist and hid behind there, didn't do. Everything has basically shuffled up. There's been some advancing as well, like there, for example, but effectively everything has moved up. The unit hiding behind there is doing the retrieving Octarius data. The Dreadnought down there was healed, so he's back up to 12 wounds now. That's right, yes. And I think that was about it in terms of command phase. There was, he was given, was it +1 to hit? Warlord, sorry.
Yes.
And then the other Dreadnought has an aura of reroll 1s to hit for core units.
within 6 inches as well, so CP spent there. Right, so after the psychic phase and the shooting phase, I have no army left. So with the psychic phase, a smite started it off with the rhino, everything within 6 inches of whoever cast it. There's someone over there who I'm never going to get to. Gave everyone a bubble of 5 up invulnerable saves, but I may not have anything to take advantage of that. Then the melter death started. It was pretty horrendous. So we've had a rhino destroyed. Both immolators have been destroyed. An exorcist has been destroyed. Another exorcist is now down to 2 wounds. My entire retributor squad has been destroyed to bolter fire. Rolling 4 1s on the save. But there it is. I did roll a 2 as well. There's no point in re-rolling the 2 because the squad would have been wiped anyway. That wound marker need not be there because its owner is dead. So that's it. It will just be the charge phase now. This is looking a bit ropey. So with the charge phase, there was only one successful charge. However, the Dreadnought issued a charge against the Celestian squad, who then promptly overwatched and actually did plink only, unfortunately, 1 wound off with a multi-melter.
They took a bit of pain.
They did, but never mind. Everything counts. And then this was the only successful charge over here onto the rhino with the lunatics inside. Other charges were attempted, but not quite making. They were quite long charges. So in the combat phase, 6 wounds were done to the rhino. I wouldn't have minded if it was actually destroyed, but never mind. I'll have to see if it's possible to pile out and do some sort of shuffle back and charge. I don't know. We'll have to just see. In terms of morale, I used my miracle die, which was a 2, to auto pass, well, effectively pass with the nutters over there in the off chance they actually get to charge something and not die. At the end of this battle round, I do get 4 for the Sacred Rites because the Battle Sisters did survive. I don't get it now technically, but I will get it at the end of my next command phase. The Octarius data has been tallied there, and 4 victory points were scored for Oaths of the Moment. So that's where we are going into my turn 2. Right, movement phase then. The Exorcist has shuffled up 3 inches, because that's all it can do now for reasons. The Canoness has moved up, the Celestian squad has moved across there. Battle Sisters moved across, Dogmata and Palatine both ran. Celestine and the Sisters Repentia and the Superior Repentia have moved there to try and get a charge on. And the Battle Sisters moved there so that they can carry out sacred sites on that objective. And the Archoflagellants and Preacher piled out. The Rhino backed off. I think there's a stratagem I can use to steal fire with it, but it's got nothing worth firing, so I won't. And I think that was it. Yeah, I tried to do a prayer. It wasn't going to be terribly useful, but that failed. But at the start of a phase, my Preacher can actually use a command point to do a prayer. So he will, to put War Hymn on the Nutters, but I might do that at the beginning of the charge phase, but I will certainly remember to do that. In the command phase itself, again, I got Miracle Die. I got a 1, so again, if I need to take morale, but other than that, it's not useful, other than, I suppose, to try and save a character, because I'd be able to bring them back on 1 wound, or to be able to dispel invulnerable saves if necessary, if my Canoness was anywhere near. But now it'll be going into the shooting. So after shooting, the Leviathan Dreadnought has been destroyed. He did explode, so he's done a mortal wound to his mates over there. In terms of other shooting, not really anything else happened. In fact, I don't think anything happened, did it? No one.
To him.
Oh yeah, okay. So he took an extra wound from someone.
Dogs, guys.
And yeah. Oh, did I kill them with bolter fire?
Yes, you
All
killed
right.
one of them.
Okay, so one of those, yeah, there's only 4 left. So one of those dies to bolter fire as well. So it'll be going into the charges, and I'll have to remember to do my War Hymn. So after the charges, it was mostly successful. The War Hymn was got off on the Archoflagellants. It's just automatic with a command point. The Preacher and the Archoflagellants have properly mugged those. The Celestine, and as well as the Repentia, as well as the Superior, have charged into there. Unfortunately, my Canoness, even with the reroll, Couldn't get what was now a 10 needed with the removal of that model earlier. So she's a combat character who's going to be stuck out on her arse until someone shoots her, unfortunately. But then it wasn't looking that amazing anyway. So after the fight phase, the shining moment of the game for me was the Arco-Flagellants absolutely butchered with their over 80 attack. We didn't even have to use all 80 attacks. But I do have to roll for them, I remember, because some may die. I used a stratagem, which in the end I probably didn't need, but I did it anyway. So on ones, they will die. Celestine only managed to take 1 wound off the Dreadnought. The Repentia, I think, might have done some damage, but not enough to kill it. They, in turn, got smashed by the Space Marines. The Repentia Superior is still there as well. And that was it. The Dreadnought tried to attack back, but Invulnerable saved me. So that's the fight phase. I will better see if any Arco-Flagellants died. Well, some will. Right, so after the command and movement phase, you basically spent all your command point now. Yep. So the Dreadnought has been now healed twice, so for 6. So he's gone up to 11 wounds again. He's never dying. I haven't got very much left to try and kill him now. There was some movement down there. The Warlord is reroll hits, is it again?
No, it's on him to reroll.
Oh, he's rerolling hit rolls. But other than that, that was about it. They've stayed there. They are doing the Octarius thing again. So that'll give the second tally at the end of the turn. There wasn't any other movement over there though. So we'll be back after the shooting and psychic. So after shooting, the Canoness was very much shot down, of course. But yeah, I used 3 miracle dice to bring her back up at the end of the phase with 3 wounds remaining. The Sister Superior was, the Repentia Superior was shot at, but that made no consequence. The Arco-Flagellants were shot at. Is that 2 left?
Yes.
Gordon Bennett. I don't know where my preacher is. Oh, he's dead. There's a smoking hole where my preacher was. The Exorcist was also, of course, destroyed, but it didn't explode. And that's it for the shooting phase. We'll be back after charges. Right, so after charges, there's some mighty charges over here. So, what even are those? Eradicators or? Devastators, sorry. And the Dreadnought, which is your Warlord, is it? Yes. They have charged in. I'm not at all disappointed with that. She now gets to do some fighting, assuming she survives the Devastators. And those guys over there have charged into my remaining Flagellants. So if they survive, the Lunatics get 1 more attack back, but no one charged into Celestine. So that's it for charge. We'll be back after, well, probably actually at the end of the turn, but after the fight phase, certainly. Right, so at the end of that turn, the Canoness was destroyed in the most embarrassing way possible by these Devastators, rolling 1s on the save again. That's happened a couple of times. Celestine's little pals were destroyed. Celestine didn't really do very much in return herself. That's a bit of a theme there. The Repentia Superior has died as well. So basically maxed out on assassination for the Space Marines. And at this point, it is mathematically now impossible because I am a minimum of 20 points ahead. Realistically, it'd be more, well, that in the battle round 3. And I cannot actually score, even with my remaining 2 turns, even if I had all of these still left alive. When I go into my next turn, which I won't, it wouldn't actually be possible for me to score another 20 points with the way things are set. As I said, even if I controlled all the dice rolls and all of mine were 6s and all of Stan's were 1s, it's not possible. So I'll concede there. Sisters of Battle are going to have to run away. Celestine's going to, I'm going to use my command point to have her run away. And there we go.
That was a lot of melt to death. That was a horrific amount of melt to death. I mean, it's just as well I got the first turn is all I can say to that one. And in that first turn, see, I mean, that's, you know, Adepta Sororitas, that's quite a shooty army. There are things that obviously you could take now with the Sisters of Battle. And I have stuff on the way, but I say on the way, it's not actually really on the way. So it'll be some time before I get it. It's just in the pipeline. So the very strong close combat stuff. I mean, in terms of close combat stuff, I have Sisters Repentia. They're fine if you can deliver them to combat. On this occasion, I couldn't. I mean, at the end of the day, their Rhino was blown up before it could be delivered anywhere, and 3 of them died piling out. And that was actually a thing to consider here as well. It was just a ridiculous amount of firepower I was facing off against. I'm not really sure what could be done about that. because it's not that it was ridiculously luck based. You know, when I had my shooting phase, it was slightly below par, but only very slightly below par. Had it not been, you know, I killed one dreadnought and I damaged two others. Couldn't focus just one other just because of line of sight issues. So that's why it had to be spread there a little bit. You know, I'd have expected to kill two dreadnoughts, but that's all I could have expected to kill. That's all I could have expected to kill. That one dreadnought remaining on like half wounds or something did not make the difference. You know, when it came to the Space Marines turn, it was carnage, absolute carnage with my vehicles, utter carnage. And it wasn't very. There were a few things where some of the special military type weapons, can't remember what they're called, D6 shots got 6 shots and 5 shots one. But by and large, it wasn't like ridiculously lucky or anything. It was just death. But yeah, but you look at something like that, you can look at the Sisters Repent here. There's like 10 things in a vehicle. So you roll in 10 dice, you get 3 ones. Now you can look at that and go, well, you know, realistically, that's quite a bit worse than. But it's like you might expect 2 to die. 3 is only an extra 1. But you know, and then when they got shot at as well, there was only like a few of those left. So I couldn't deliver those into combat. The Arco-Flagellants did me further, and I spent the stratagem on them unnecessarily. It was massively overkill. I just wanted my shining moment with them. But that's the problem, it's delivering them. Whereas there are some things, you know, Paragon Warsuits and Celestians, not Celestian, I had some of those. The Celestian Sacrosancts. Penitent Engines, Mortifiers as well, I'll be getting. You know, because I will just want to do an army that just goes, right, run across the board. But yeah, I mean, against that sort of firepower, I don't really know what you do. And I can sort of see now why all this talk was of the US Grand Tournament introducing a battlefield that has massive amounts of blocking and dense terrain on it. Like so much that... Because I looked at that first of all, I thought, well, you have shooting armies, 40k is a shooting game. This is a bit rubbish, isn't it? You massively stack the odds in favour of close combat armies. I mean, that's not... You know, it's good that close combat armies are viable in 40k, but you don't want them to be the be-all and end-all. But then you can see an army like this, which is just full of so much... 24 melter models, and that can go right across the board, and you just look at it and go, that's that. Because it was a lot. It was a ridiculous amount of firepower. I don't know how you stand up to that unless you have just got things like Imperial Guard that can stand behind blocking terrain and shoot regardless. You know, I can with a command point get an Exorcist to fire one of its weapons without needing line of sight. Maybe I should have hidden an Exorcist. Maybe I should have done that, but it wouldn't have changed things in the end anyway. But there it is. There it is. He's not allowed to use that at the club, apparently, he tells me. So that was his one time in the year when he'll be allowed to use it against me, because I don't really mind. The next one coming up next week is an Age of Sigmar one again, 3rd edition, where we've got Flesh Eater Courts against Soulblight Gravelords. It was going to be Clans Pestilence, but I don't like what they've done with the new rules for Clans Pestilence, and I cannot come up with a list that I wouldn't find incredibly frustrating. I will do at some point. But for now, a different Soulblight Gravelords dynasty to the one I took last time. But there we go. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And until next time, I'll see you later.